What's going on, everyone? I'm a little bit tired this morning, a little bit non energetic. Trying to drink some pre workout to give me some energy, see what that does for me, but we'll see, man. I got the, there's some pretty exciting things over this past weekend, this past week. We had, saw the U.S. women play. We all know how I feel about them. They had, they played Chile, whatever. And they won 3-0, but the whole thing kind of took me for a loop because in the beginning of the game, when they do the national anthem. So if you watch soccer, you know that when you watch the nations play each other, each individual team like belts out their national anthem. Like it's just not like regular games where you stand there with your hands folded. If you watch basketball, they'll stand there with their hands folded or hand over their chest or whatever. Now in soccer, it's so different. They they're belting out the song and they're singing loud and they're crying and stuff like that. Like it's so different from any other sport. So in the USA women's versus Chile, so what were the U.S. women doing? Nothing. They were just standing there. You know, I'm sure it was some type of protest against them not being paid equally to the men or whatever. And there's nothing that there's nothing that they can really do to help that. It's what the market is. That's just what the market is. I don't understand what they don't get about that. You know, um, they can't change the consumer's mind. They can only do the best they can. It's and it's not fault of, there's no fault of their own because it's just like the men had such a long head start. Men have been playing sports for such a longer time and people have become accustomed to that. You know? I mean, not every sport is the man better than the woman, but I feel like, in my opinion, the men have been around so much longer before women were even allowed to do anything. So now, like, women are coming up, like women's basketball, you got women's soccer, you got women's hockey, you got, different sports that women play that are just starting to get noticed. I think in the future it'll be different, but it's going to take a while. So people just aren't accustomed to it, and they're accustomed to the competition in the men's game. The men have so much more, or I feel like, are so much more have this like. I feel like since they do have more testosterone, like they are a little bit more competitive and stuff like that. But the one thing I love about the women's game is that they don't flop. You know what I mean? They get up and they tough it out. Like the men flopping all over the place, like um, playing like little kids, trying to get a call. Whereas the women are pretty hardcore. Like some of them, there's some teams that they'll flop or whatever. Definitely not as much as the men do, though. So that's the one thing I love about them. But then you got back to the national anthem. I think it's like a thing. You got little girls looking up to you. And I know what you're trying to do. I understand that. But why even play for the national team if you're just going to do that? You know what I mean? We still, as a country, we still had things to be proud of. It's not like our country's so horrible. You know what I mean? We're still a young country. We're coming up. Other countries have already been through this kind of stuff. So we're still learning. We're still growing as a country, but there's still so many things to be proud of. There's still so many things to be grateful for. You know, the fact that you're a woman playing soccer. How about you think about that? How about you think about you're a woman playing a professional sport? Because guess what? In this country before, women weren't allowed to do that. And that shows you how far we've come. You know, so I guess in the future maybe you'll get paid the same, but it's really the market value. It's really what the consumer is looking for. You know, if people don't come out to your games and stuff, what are you going to do? How do you expect to be paid what the men are getting, you know, when people are coming out to their games, but not yours? You know, you can get more than them in endorsement deals. You know what I mean? So, because I think this day and age in America, there's probably more girls playing soccer than guys. Because guys do have other outlets. They do have other sports where they can go professional, whereas girls really can't. So, I don't know. And the whole thing about, and keep in mind, the women's team is the best team in the world in women's soccer. So don't think because this whole thing about them losing a scrimmage to the under 15 boys team, don't read too much into that. People go crazy over that because they lost. You know what I mean? So think about this. When you're under 15 or you're a young kid and you get to play the best team in women's soccer in the world, you're going to play your heart out. You know what I'm saying? You're going to do everything you can to win that game, right? Even if it's a scrimmage, it could, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what kind of game it is. You want to win. On the other side, the girls are trying to get ready for Russia, right? So they're going through different shapes. They're going through different defensive tactics and everything, and they're practicing. They're learning new things. They're not really playing hard. They're not really trying to win the game. You know what I mean? It's practice for them. Who cares if they lost? You know, they needed kids, and don't get me wrong, man. These little kids, man, they're under 15. One, they don't look 15 at all. And two, they're really good. But I wouldn't look too much into that because they lost. It was 5-2 or something like that. I can guarantee you goalie wasn't going as hard. The team wasn't going hard. You know, because they're trying to position, they're practicing position. If you ever watched a football walkthrough practice, you know how slow they're going? You know how much they're like, you know, they're going like less than half pace. So I guarantee you that's what the women were doing because it's like a walkthrough for them. That's why they got the under 15 team. They weren't playing grown men. Because they didn't need that. They weren't looking for competition. They were looking for people that they can just walk through and practice positioning and knowing where they're supposed to be at the time and the defensive tactics and all that kind of thing. So people that really think and read too much into that are stupid. You don't know anything about sports. You don't know anything about soccer. So just shut the fuck up. That's all I gotta say. But so yeah, we had that. And of course USA won 3-0. So now they got Sweden and then we'll see what happens there. They play what's today? Wednesday? So tomorrow's Thursday. They'll play Thursday. And then this week was also Father's Day. Which is cool, man, because like we went out to breakfast and everything, and then we went to my wife's parents' house for like a lunch dinner. So got to spend time with all the men in my life, which is cool because I'm fortunate enough to have that and to be able to pick apart a little piece of something from them and learn something from them. Because they all do different things. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have both set of grandparents. You know, I learned a lot from my papa. You know, he's one of the sweetest guys in the world, man. Like, he'll do just anything for you. Like, he's very loyal. He's very not about himself. Like, he'll look out for me or someone else before he looks out for himself. Um, and then he also taught me how to drive. Like, he would take me driving when, like, I was like 11 or 12. So he would let me drive. When we would get to my neighborhood, he would bring me home from his house. He would let me take the wheel and start driving while he's pressing the gas and the brake and stuff. So that was always fun. And then when I was at the age where I could drive, he was always like, "Oh yeah, let's go driving. Let's go driving." And I was always scared. He was like, "Oh no, we'll be fine." So we went to like an empty parking lot at a high school, and he would just take me out all the time. So it just got me into the rhythm of things, and it allowed us to also spend time together. So that's what I loved about being with him, and he's just so unselfish. And then also, my granddad, one of the most consistent like workers and just doing things. Like, he's rarely just sitting down. You know what I mean? And if he's sitting down, he's watching something um that's educational or something like that. Um like, rarely is he just like being lazy. He's always out doing something in the yard. He's one of the top like over 70 table tennis players in the state of Delaware. And he plays ping pong at a all Chinese gym or something. Like, he's the only American, not American, but like only white person there. And which is why he's got so good. And he also plays like old people softball. And he still brags to me, like tells me, "Oh, I got my daily double this month," or whatever like that, like um so yeah, his work ethic is just like through the roof. I don't know if that was his upbringing or if that's just because of where he's from. He's from West Virginia, so he's got to have some type of work ethic coming from there. And then looking at my dad's kind of like, he does things in silence that I notice. You know what I mean? He's not really the like get in my face and type like and help me that way and tell me life stories or what to do with life, blah blah blah. Like, I see him do things and I say, "Ooh, I should try that. Yeah, I should do that," Or the way he reacts to things, or uh, just different things that he does. I just watch him. And I think that's what everyone should do. They just pay attention, and you see little things that people do in your life, and you can learn from that. Like how passionate he is. He's really big into hiking now, and how passionate he is about that. It makes me want to be even more passionate about what I love. So those are a couple of things that I love about those guys. And then you got my father-in-law, who's another workhorse, man. That dude doesn't stop. He's constantly doing something. And with him, he's more of like a handyman. So he loves doing stuff with his hands. He loves building stuff. He loves making stuff. He loves fixing stuff. So he's constantly over my house fixing something or doing something. But the only difference is, I hate when people do stuff for me. Um, so what I do is, if I need help, I'm either there helping him with what he's doing, or I'm watching him because so I can learn how to do it. I'm just gonna sit there and say, "Oh, hey, do this for me." I've never been like that, and I've always hated that. I hate that people do that, and I hate because I think that's the way we're raising our kids today. Is just we're doing stuff for them so they don't learn anything. So I've always hated when um, people do that. So, like for example, it was raining, and the piece of the fencing that separates my neighbor and my house just like blew over. And when I tried to go out and do it myself and put it back up, um, I had it up, but then I had to nail it. So I was like, how am I going to do this myself? And then all of a sudden, it hit the fucking like fence hit me like I got hit by 10 dudes in football. That's how hard the wind was. And I was like, all right, I ain't doing this by myself. And keep in mind, it was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And so I called my father-in-law, and he came over at the drop of a hat and, helped me with it. And that's just an example of like the kind of guy that he is, and, the things that he does for us, and, how I pay attention to everything that he does, just even though he's just helping me, like I want to, like I'm very grateful that me and my wife have that in our life. So then that way, um, I can learn the things that he does. So that's the great thing about Father's Day to me. That I just reflect on those little things that I learned from those guys, and try and incorporate them in my life. And I think that's what y'all should do, and what other people should do. And then the last thing that I watched this past week was World's Strongest Man. If you haven't watched World's Strongest Man, you need to check it out, because it's so much better than powerlifting. Like, it's so much more entertaining. To watch these guys lift the heaviest things that you wouldn't think that anyone can lift. Like, they're deadlifting trucks, for reps. It's not how much weight it is, it's how many times they can do it. And this stuff's over 1,000 pounds. It's not like 500 or 600. That's their warm up. And then this year you had an American win that's not Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw has won, I think he's won 4 times. But now he's getting older, and he's kind of like declining and everything. He's getting injured more, and I feel bad for him. But when you're that old, man, I mean, he's old for the sport. I think he's like 37. And for that kind of sport that puts so much pressure, and doing it for over years and years and years, all that pressure on your joints and tendons and stuff, man, like, it's about that time. And I think he got 6th place in this past one. But you have Martin Licis or something like that. I believe he got 2nd in the Arnold Strongman, which is probably like the 2nd most prestigious award in strongman. And then you had Thor, who plays the Mountain on Game of Thrones, so everyone would know him. And this year they're actually showing World's Strongest Man on what was it? What did they say? ABC. So they're actually showing it on national television, and I think it's going to be on June 30th. So I'm actually going to watch that, even though I know the outcome. I don't even care. I still want to watch it. I mean, you have the first time that 2 brothers are competing. I believe the first time a gay strongman is competing. So there's a bunch of first time stuff, and I love witnessing that kind of thing, just so I can say I saw it. But now it's actually going to be nationally televised. I don't think it's been nationally televised since like the 80s or 70s maybe. So that would be cool to watch. But a couple things not a couple things, just one thing I was kind of reading at work this week has been why gym class is kind of getting like people are getting rid of gym class in schools. So some people may agree with it, some people may disagree with it, and I can agree and disagree in two separate instances, because a lot of people treat gym class as like a study hall. A lot of schools treat gym as a playtime. If you make it more than that, it could be more effective. You know what I mean? I've had gym class, depending on the gym teacher. I had gym class where we just played dodgeball or we just played different like little things like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, it keeps people active, but those kind of things too also takes the non-sporty people out of it. You know, I was at the point where I was actually asked to tutor someone. I guess you would call it tutoring. I don't know. But I had to get this girl to pass the fitness test because she was never, she did so bad in gym. And really, all I thought in gym was you had to get changed and you would get 100. But I guess that wasn't the case. I guess we actually doing stuff. So I know we did the fitness test like once a year or something like that, where you had to run a mile, you had to do push-ups, you had a flexibility thing, and then you had to do sit-ups or whatever. But I guess that actually counted. So yeah, I had to actually train this girl so she could pass gym. So that was actually my first training experience. But I think that's why gym's so important, is because it is about exercise. It is about being active. And if you're taking that out of schools, and that actually helps you during the day, you know, I actually hated having gym first period, um, because it gave me the energy throughout the day, and I didn't want to be in those classes. I always like doing like going to gym and then just going home, but I was just lazy. That's all it was. And gym was my favorite class anyway. But but yeah, it depends on the teacher, because I had gym teachers where I had one in particular where we actually did physical activity. Like we did running, we did um push-ups and sit-ups and that kind of those kind of exercises. She had us go through different working out movements. We didn't lift weights or anything because we didn't have that, but we did body weight stuff. We did jump rope and all these kind of. She made it fun. She made it like a kind of like a game, but it wasn't. She had a whole method behind it, and I think that's what the schools need. I think they need something like that, because you got to have something for the people that aren't athletic. There's going to be kids that aren't athletic and that don't want to do it. But guess what? When you go in any other class, there's kids that don't want to do that stuff either. Me in particular. I was one of those kids. Like, I hated every single class, but when it came to lunch and gym, I looked forward to it. When it came to gym, I knew that was my time to shine. So any sport we played, I would like to show off, and I like to test myself to see if I was the best in the class. That was just the way I was. You have to force people to participate in gym even if they don't want to, because it is a class. You know what I mean? Treat it as a actual class, because it can help someone's health. Um, people joke around and stuff during gym because it seems like a playtime for people. You know what I mean? But for example, like other than gym, my school offered a strength and conditioning class. I needed another credit. I was like, oh, strength and conditioning, like I can do that. Um, there ended up only being two of us in the class, me and this other girl. The other girl would lift. I would sleep because because it happened before school, so it would happen like 6 or 7 in the morning, and and the teacher wasn't very like strict with us, so like I would just lay on a bench and go to sleep, and I did that for like half the year, and then I was like, I should use this time to do my homework that I didn't do, so I started doing that, and then maybe towards the end of the year, I finally was like, maybe I should actually start working out. And that's when something clicked in my head. That's when whatever is in me, it just triggered and said, I love doing this. And I loved it even more when I started seeing results. I actually, then I started taking supplements and stuff like from GNC or whatever, and had no idea what I was taking. I I knew what it did. I knew it was a pre-workout. I knew it was a post-workout, whatever, and I didn't know what it was actually doing. You know what I mean? So I got really into working out and stuff because once people started giving me compliments and stuff, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this. Um, so I went to practice. I lifted in the morning. I went to practice. Then I came home. I lifted at my house. I had a little set of weights there, so I lifted at my house too. And I started getting on these supplements, and then I completely forgot about eating. So I started getting real sick and stuff because all I was doing was supplements. I was doing pre-workout, post-workout, intro workouts, protein shakes. I was doing all that stuff. The only time I would really eat was at lunchtime in school. I can't really remember eating too much dinner. I probably did. I probably ate a little bit when I got home. But then I have like a protein shake or something after. And then mass gainer shakes too. I was having those. So I was having all these shakes and all these like different things thinking it was working. But really I was breaking myself down because then eventually I got tired of it. And I stopped. And it wasn't until because at that time too I also I played soccer, so soccer players didn't really lift with the football players. I actually asked the football coaches if I could lift with them. So I was actually lifting 3 times a day. Yeah. So I was doing that because lifting was after soccer season, so I didn't have to worry about that. And so yeah, I was actually doing all that, and just really filling my body with supplements, and my body wasn't getting the nutrients it needed, and I was just feeling sick all the time and wondering why I was feeling sick all the time. And then when I got older, I looked back and I was like, oh man. I was like, no wonder I was sick, man. Like, I didn't know anything. But all that stemmed from, and where I'm at today stems from gym class. I was always an athlete, so I loved gym, but I never thought of becoming a trainer or becoming someone that's interested in supplements. You know what I mean? That's where we're at now with like Strong Tower Nutrition, man. Like that brings me to where I am today. And it all comes from gym class. Because what I've learned in there, and then that strength and conditioning class, the little bit I learned there, then I ended up going to school for personal training. What I learned there, and then getting a job at a supplement shop and all that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. So just one little thing can shape someone's life. You know what I mean? And I read all these like bullshit studies that they found that gym class doesn't help you. It actually makes it worse for these kids, blah blah blah. Yeah, because it depends on the teacher and their curriculum and what they do. It's the same thing with any other class. If I have a shitty teacher in math, how do you think I'm supposed to learn math? You know what I mean? Like for me, I already had a hard time learning, especially in geometry. So in geometry, I struggled. But then I had a teacher that one, didn't know how to teach, and two, barely spoke English. So you put all that together, and then what do you think's going to happen? Yeah, summer school. I ended up in summer school again. But, it's the same thing with any class. You can't just blame it on the class itself. It depends on what you do in the class. Like, put me in there as a gym teacher and see what happens. You know what I mean? I'm going to focus on the kids that don't like it. Because the kids that like it, I don't have to worry about. I know they're going to get it done. I know they're going to do what they need to do because it's something they enjoy. It's the same thing in any other class. If there's kids that enjoy doing reading and that enjoy learning, that enjoy doing their homework, you don't really worry about them too much because you know they're going to hand it in the next day. But with me or with another kid, we hate it. We don't turn our homework in. We don't read. So you're going to put more time into us because you want us to do that. You want us to succeed, right? So that's why you do that. You put that extra time into the kids that you know that aren't going to do it. Because the kids that you do know are going to do it, you don't put that much time into it. And it's funny because it's the same thing. It's not just with kids. It's the same thing with adults. Because being a trainer, I see that. Or I saw that when I was training at gyms. Even with adults. There's adults that I know that were going to do the things that I told them to do. Because they had a certain goal in mind and they would do it on their own. But there's other people that I would push and push. I'd have to text them every day to make sure that they were doing what they were doing. Or that I had them to do. Because otherwise they weren't going to do it. So adults, don't blame it on the kids. Because it's the same thing with you. Same exact thing. People came to me saying, oh yeah, we're going to do this. I want to lose weight. I'm going to do this, this, and that for my trip to the Bahamas, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. I've seen it 100 times before. So we'll see. And then within 1 month, it got too hard for them. I can't eat this. It's too hard to eat this. I can't work out this much. I have kids. Blah, blah, blah. Excuse after excuse after excuse. Guess what? If you're a parent, there's a million parents out there that work out that have kids. There's a lady that writes articles for bodybuilding.com. I believe she has like 8 kids. She works out. Yeah, she's a stay-at-home mom. But guess what? Stay-at-home mom is a job too. Especially with 8 kids, dude. Come on. Don't make excuses for her. Don't make excuses for yourself. Because she's not doing that. She got 8 kids. And she's writing. And she's training. So what's your excuse? Come on. You got 1 kid. And you're not even doing anything. You're just making excuses. You're using that kid as an excuse. You can still put your full life into that kid and then also do something for yourself. You know how long a workout takes? A half hour. You don't have a half hour out of your day. Come on. Then you're doing something wrong. There is such thing as putting too much time into someone. If I had a kid, I would dedicate my full life to him. But also would have to get done what I have to get done. No matter if I have to wake up early or go to bed late, whatever. I would find time to do it. I would find time to do a podcast. I would find time to work out. It's all about, there's 24 hours in a day. You got the same 24 hours as Beyonce. You got the same 24 hours as Jay-Z, who just became the first billionaire in music or something like that. I don't know. I know he's a billionaire, so that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how he did it. But quit using excuses. I'm so tired of it. And no, I'm not perfect. I do it myself. And I get mad at myself for making excuses. Yesterday I felt like I didn't really get anything done. And then I caught myself making an excuse I was like, oh, no. I was like, you didn't get anything done. Hopefully we can do it tomorrow. and we'll see what goes from there. You know what I'm saying? So like, figure yourself out. Do stuff for yourself. Love yourself. I'm tired of having to explain that to people all the time. Like, you don't have to go to a therapist to learn that. To learn about taking care of yourself and loving yourself. You know what I mean? It's something that should just come natural. Do what makes you happy. Do what's going to make you happy. Because if you can't keep yourself happy, how do you expect to keep someone else happy? It's close to impossible for you to be so miserable and keep someone else happy. You know? Because if that someone else is the person that cares about your happiness, that person is going to be miserable because you're not happy. I guarantee that's how it is. So how did I get from gym class to this? I don't know. But yeah, all in all, I'm for like keeping gym class in schools and stuff because not every kid is going to get into a sport, and that's what those kids need. They need gym class more than anything. If anything, make the kids that don't play sports get into gym class or have a class for those people, those kids, because the kids that play sports are obviously athletic. They're obviously into it, but make the kids that don't do those kind of things get into some extracurricular activity that has them moving around or doing something like that. Have them do cross country, man. All you got to do is run. It's not that hard. I mean, it's hard on your body, but it's not really hard to do. Everyone can run. If you got two legs working, you can run. So, all in all, looks like my fucking battery's gonna die. So, that's it for this episode of the Strong Tower Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Peace.